I'm going to talk to you now about those 5 or 6 things that have changed or that have happened to bring about the change in our routine, basically, in how we structure our days, how we structure our life for learning and living and growing together. So a few of these are related to our move, and I'm going to discuss those first. And then 2 of them are related to our children's needs and who they are and where they're at. And the last point is related to myself. One of the big changes in our family's life this year that has influenced how we are homeschooling is our move. And if you've been following FIMBY at all for the past, let's see, we moved in May, so the past 6 months or so, you'll know that we have gone through a life-changing move. And I'm not going to go into all of that on this video, except to say that there was a period of time where things were very unstructured in the homeschooling part of our life for the early part of this year. So, you know, from middle January, February until we moved, we totally unschooled. And it was basically like, fend for yourself, kids. You know, I'll take you to the library and we will do the day-to-day, you know, we have discussions about things and life learning, but I didn't do anything with them that was structured or routine or that looked like a school routine, because we were focused on moving our family from a particular lifestyle to a very different lifestyle. It was like whole scale change. It was changing houses, changing countries, changing the way we are living and earning money, changing the dynamic of our family, daddy at work, to daddy being at home. So many things changed. So during that time, it was very unstructured. And after moving to my parents' house in May, we were ready for some structure, and we were craving it. I was craving some structure and routine to the homeschool part of our lives, and also even other parts, you know, getting the kitchen stuff in order again, cooking to the level that I feel I want to keep my family healthy. All those things, we needed to have routines in place. And so we started a fairly solid, steady, predictable homeschool routine after we moved, because we had had months that were very unstructured, and we all needed that. The second thing that is related to our move in making our homeschool practice look different is that we are in a somewhat nomadic stage of life. We are living right now at my parents', and we are going to be moving again in less than 2 months. And we have plans to travel in the future for large chunks of time with our children. And so we are not committed to one spot, one house. This is the place we will raise our children. This is, you know, the home for us. We are not in that stage of life. We are in a let's adventure stage of life. We need to structure certain times of our life so that the things that we are intentional about, I mentioned that earlier when I was explaining our education philosophy, there are certain things that we are intentional about. If those things are going to happen, I need to structure them during the times when we are able to. And so there will be chunks of our life where we are going to not be doing school stuff. We will be traveling, we will be kind of in between places. We're going to be moving in less than 2 months, and I have like a whole month or more off for that, because that just takes a lot of energy. And so the times that there is a bit of stability, we are going to focus during those times on what our educational goals are. The ones that we are intentional about, the ones that we want to work on at a regular practice and with a regular discipline. If we are going to meet the things that we have set out to do, I need to be intentional about making those happen. And so I am more structured in our school time when I'm able to be. So that is the second moving related change in our homeschool practice. And the third is that When we had lived in Maine and were in a community for a number of years, our homeschool experience was quite community dependent, and we accessed a lot of the resources in our community. Those were a big part of our homeschooling curriculum and a big part of what we pulled in to give our kids, a good education. And I didn't have to buy a lot of things because there was lots of stuff accessible. You have to be in a place for a time to find those things out. And in moving, I've moved to a place where I don't know what the resources are here, and I'm moving again to a place where we don't even speak the dominant language. And so we are in a period where we are without lots of community resources. And so because we are not in a fixed location, in a set community where I am familiar with the resources available to me, I've had to bring more of those into our home, which means I've had to spend more money, really. And I've had to do a lot of research about in spending that money, what really my kids need, what matches up with our family values and our philosophy and where they're at and what they need. Families at a different stage of life, and I have to bring more resources into our home. So that looks very different. And so those first 3 points were moving related, how our daily homeschool life looks different because of our move. And the next 2 relate to our children and their unique needs right now. The first is about Celine. She is the child who is leading us into the middle homeschooling years because she is our oldest, and she is actually in those years in her own journey. She's 12, and it's very exciting, and I can't wait to share more of this with you. All that stuff that I've read over the past 6, 7, 8 years about giving children a childhood, and when they're ready to take things deeper at an academic, intellectual, dive deep into who they are and the learning and all this, the stuff that we think we have to force on children when they are 6, 7, 8, 9, you have to learn this. It's insane, I think, but you have to learn this now, or you're not going to get into the right college. All those things that we think we need to force on young children. I believe that we should not force those on young children, and that we let them have a childhood and we let them explore and discover and play. And those things are going to come. And that's what's happening in Celine's own experience. And as her parent and as a family on this homeschooling journey together, it is very exciting. So I can't wait to tell you more about that, but that's going to have to wait right now because I have to stay focused in this video. So Celine's needs for, quite frankly, more academics is fueling a change in our homeschool practice. And I'm going to tell you what she said when we arrived here. I'm paraphrasing it, but I don't remember the exact words. But it was basically, Mom, I need more than sitting down on the couch and reading stories. And I was like, okay, I can do that, I think. I'm going to have to do some research, but I can do that. Because I know how to sit down and read stories. I can do that really well. But this whole put the resources in her hands that she needs to just expand her mind and grow intellectually and emotionally and spiritually. This is a big challenge for me now, and this is what I've been going through this summer. And her needs have really shifted the day-to-day practice of homeschooling for us. So the other need that became apparent this summer, as far as our children's needs, is that Laurent has struggled with reading from the very beginning. Reading has not come easy to him. I wrote a post about our reading journey, and you'll find a link in this post. And at the time I wrote that last fall, I thought that we were, on the road finally to getting Laurent to being an independent reader. He's 10, And he got to the point where he really was motivated. And for a while, he just wasn't. For a few years, he wasn't. And then when he reached the point where he was really motivated, I thought, okay, well, that's it. It's going to just come because we've laid the foundation. He's, in terms of reading, lots of reading as a family. He's gotten some basic phonics instruction, and now he's really motivated. He wants to do it. It's going to snap into place. And it did not happen that way. And so this summer, earlier this summer, shortly after we moved, because I didn't have really a lot of time to think about this during the moving process. So after we moved and we arrived here, I delved into why is this not clicking for Laurent. Laurent has a lot of the symptoms or a lot of the characteristics of someone with dyslexia. And so I'm kind of comfortable saying that he probably has mild to lower moderate dyslexia. That unofficial diagnosis, and I hate even calling it that because in our family we don't look at that as a problem. We just look at that as this is how your brain is wired and mine is wired differently. And so knowing that his brain is wired differently than my other children's, I have to approach teaching him to read in a different way. And quite frankly, it's more difficult than just sitting on the couch and reading aloud and like seeing the pieces fall into place. And so I have to be very, and here comes the word again, intentional, about how I structure our homeschooling, because he needs a different kind of reading instruction. I am more structured in what I'm doing, specifically in terms of the spelling and the reading for him and Brienne, because she's still not a very independent reader either. And so that has really changed. Overall, our kids, in terms of where they are at in their growth stages and where they are at with their unique learning needs, require more structure and more investment of time on my part in making sure that the things that we want to teach them are happening and the things that they want to learn are happening. It just basically requires a more structured homeschooling experience for us. The last point of how our school practice has changed relates to me and my needs and my personal journey. One of the things that our move has allowed me to do is to explore goals and dreams and desires that I have outside of the basic homeschooling and homemaking that I do. And those are really the core of who I am right now at this stage of life and the main things that I do. And I love doing those things. But I have other dreams also, to be a writer and to explore options as a creative entrepreneur and to explore different ways of earning money, doing the things that I love to do. Those things take time in my day. In order for me to make sure everything's getting the attention that it needs, that the homemaking is getting the attention that it needs, that my children's education is getting the attention that it needs, and that the things that I want to pursue on the side are getting the attention that they need, I need to be fairly structured, at least for me. This is how it works best for me. I need to be fairly structured and disciplined in my time in all those areas. And so I am structuring our homeschool time more, so that when I have to focus on the homemaking tasks, I feel like I can do that because I have met those homeschooling needs. And when I want to focus on my writing goals and the things that I want to do, the ideas I have that I want to develop, and the things that Damien and I are doing and we want to develop together, that when I spend time on that, I know that our homeschooling goals and needs are being taken care of. And so for me, having a more structured and routine homeschool practice just keeps me on track, really. It keeps me on track so that I'm not neglecting the things that I am called to do and the things that I feel passionate about doing. That's where things are at right now, and I'm looking forward to sharing more with you in the coming weeks and months about what this looks like on a day-to-day basis in our home, how this plays out, how we schedule and structure our days. I might get into that a little bit, but I definitely will be sharing with you the resources and the curriculum that we're using right now, the different things that I'm pulling together to address the different things I've talked about in this video. And it's a really exciting journey, and that's what I think the homeschooling experience is about. It's a journey that we take together, and it's, you know, my personal growth, it's the children's growth, it's growing as a family. It is really exciting, and I hope and wish the same thing for your homeschooling, and that where you're at right now is an exciting place to be.